My name is Dana. I'm a technical product manager working for PingID Strong Authentication and Mobile Group located in Tel Aviv, And I'm very happy to be here and present to you the all-new and hot from the oven PingID SDK. With me is Chris here. Hopefully, Chris will show a live demo, at least maybe partial, because not sure the demo gods are with us, or network gods. And Chris is from the product marketing team in Austin. He created the fictitious mobile and web application that we will be using. And we also have Gaby. He's also from the Tel Aviv team. He manages the PingID development group in Tel Aviv. Okay, so let's start. We'll talk about how to embed multi-factor authentication into your own existing mobile application. I'll present an overview of customer and access, customer IAM authentication world, and provide some of PingID SDK main flows. Then we'll either show the live demo or we'll show some video clips that we made in advance, and then we'll have some time for questions. So let's begin. Back in 2015, Starbucks was the target of an attack. Hackers used stolen credentials of Starbucks customers in order to continuously refill their Starbucks accounts, and through that they used to drain their debit or credit cards. So what they actually did is they used Starbucks application as a backdoor in order to get to the bank's applications. PingID SDK could have prevented that. And obviously, we can see that multi-factor authentication is really important in the customer identity world as well. So when we're talking about the customer world, it's very important to balance between security and customer experience. On the one hand, we have customer security, and as Gartner is quoted here, two-factor authentication is increasingly important for the CIAM world. So customers want security, they need security. They will not continue to use applications that are not secure and that put them at risk of being hacked. On the other hand, customers expect the best customer experience that they can have. And as Forrester is quoted here, customers have a low tolerance for poor user experience. We do know that the next battlefield is going to be in customer experience. Customers will move to the competitor if they think that they are hassled or bothered more than they think they should. So in order to strike the balance, organizations need a few things. First of all, the development teams need to be able to rapidly embed multi-factor authentication capabilities into their existing mobile applications in order to get that extra layer of security fast. In addition, companies spend a lot of time, effort, and money on branding. So they need to be able to have a consistent branding across the board and across all of the engagement channels and user flows. And last, as we discussed, they need to be able to keep the balance of security and usability. So up until now, we had PingID application. Do any of you use PingID as your application? Great. So for those of you who are not familiar, we have PingID, and it's great. It's a native mobile application that performs out-of-band strong authentication. It is easy for the user to download, to configure, and to pair and use. It also supports soft tokens within the application in case the mobile device is offline. As far as the admin point of view or the organization point of view, there is no development that is needed. And in addition, some co-branding is possible, as you saw from the last session. However, because of all of that, and because that's a standalone application that is downloadable from the app stores, it's primarily meant for the enterprise world and not for the customer use case. So now we introduce PingID SDK. PingID SDK is intended especially for customer identity use cases. It embeds multi-factor authentication and transaction approvals in your existing mobile application. And by doing so, it preserves the brand experience and avoid any switching and any media break between that the user needs to do in order to authenticate. And also, it supports OTP, these soft tokens, as well as the same way as PingID. Implementing PingID allows organization the following benefits. So first of all, as we said, and we will see in a few minutes, it allows to optimize the balance of security and convenience for your users. And by doing so, it increases the mobile application adoption and use. And by doing so, you can enforce transaction approvals and MFA as needed across any engagement channels. So it can be for mobile use cases, it can be for web logins or transaction approvals. It can even be for password reset or for customer support representative having to identify a user, whatever you wish. In addition, it allows you to upgrade or migrate users from the less effective legacy MFA approaches such as SMS. And we know that NIST no longer recommends two-factor authentication by using SMS as of 2016. So I shared with you a little bit about the two main capabilities or features that are needed in the customer identity and access management, which are security on the one hand and customer usability and customer experience on the other hand. So let's talk a little bit about the main flows that PingID SDK supports. Okay, it just continues. So in order to get your trusted devices network started, you need to authorize a primary device. In PingID SDK, we support two options of doing so. First of all, on the left, we support the option to authorize a primary device behind the scenes, what we call automatic authorization. And on the right, we support manual authorization. Let's start with automatic authorization. So the user logs in the same way as he normally does after he installed PingID SDK within his mobile device. And then he needs to ask one simple question. Do you want to trust this device? Since this is the device that he normally uses, then he approves that, and that's it. That's all the user needs to do in order to get that device trusted. However, behind the scenes, sophisticated trust is gained. The device in the context of the user and the application is being paired with the PingID SDK service. So the next time the user will log into that device, he will not need to do anything because that device will already be paired and trusted. That option of automatic authorization leans a little bit more toward customer experience. Yes?
So you're checking the trust based on the device certificate? How are you verifying if this device is a valid device? Are you checking the device certificate?
We can't hear you.
So the way it works is the same way PingID generates trust between PingID servers and the mobile app. The same thing happens behind the scenes, but there is no need for the users to scan a QR code or to enter a registration code. Once you click trust, since it's SDK based, you can generate the trust behind the scene and you switch
Keys. Yeah.
Between the servers and the mobile and store them in a secure location on the mobile app.
It's based on sequence.
Yeah. Okay, so as I said, this leans a little bit more toward customer experience. If the organization, it just moves without me doing anything, sorry. If the organization needs a little bit more security, on the other hand, the organization can implement manual authorization, which means that after the user approved to trust the device, he needs to type in an activation code which he obtained in advance. The way the organization provides that activation code is really up to the organization. It can be done via mail, SMS. It can be provided with a last invoice, whatever you decide. However, once that activation code is entered, PingID SDK checks that, and only then, once we validate the activation code, we perform that trust behind the scenes. So as we can see here, with only 1 or 2 steps, really on that the user has to go through, the first device is paired and the user can continue with what he's doing. Okay, so now I would like, and I think I'll show just the video. So the video is using Shopko fictitious application. This is an application that, as I said, Chris created that is running both on a mobile device and on the web. And Chris, what he did, he implemented PingID SDK in both the server side and the mobile side. So what we'll see here is Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman, she's a fan of Shopko, so she logs into the application. She puts in her credentials the way that she does always. And this application now has, this is the last version, and it has PingID SDK within it. So once she put her credentials, she is asked if she wants to trust that device. And since this is her primary device that she uses all the time, she approves that. And that's all she needs to do. Now the trust is being done behind the scenes. We see that it was successful, and she's just logged in. And that's it. Very easy. Okay, so we talked about first device pairing. Now let's talk about some web-based login or other activities from the web. So very similar to the way PingID is acting, the mobile device becomes a sort of authenticator when we're talking about web-based login. So the user logs in from the web to the application, he puts in his credentials, a push is being sent to the mobile device, and only once the user approves that push notification, strong customer authentication happens and the user is logged in. The strong customer authentication can be momentarily, or if the organization wishes, it can elevate the user's security level for a longer period of time, sort of a session. So let's look at Wonder Woman. She now wants to log in from the web. She logs in, she puts her credentials, and a push is being sent to her mobile device. She approves it. It's very similar to the way PingID acts today, only it is on Shopko's mobile application and not on PingID. And then she's logged in. One thing that I would like to say here is that from our point of view, it can be passwordless. The only thing that we require is a user unique identifier in order for that to work. So another option, another use case that I would like to share with you is transaction approval. So in case the user does a high value or high risk transaction, we can implement a transaction approval flow, in which case the user initiates a transaction, and even though he approved it, before the transaction is actually processed, a push is sent to the mobile device, and we also allow to provide the details, I don't know if you can see it, but details about the transaction, so the user can know exactly what he is approving. Only once the user approves that, the order is approved, the transaction is processed. So we can see now that Wonder Woman, she's logged in, she's adding things to her cart, and she will go to checkout in a few minutes. That's it, it's stuck. By the way, since it's not live, Chris and I will be here afterwards. If any of you want to see it live, we'll be happy to show it to you. It's just that the network is really bad now. So she proceeds to check out, and she continues and she places the order. Even though she placed the order from the logged in session, a push is being sent. Please, oh, it stopped, sorry. See that again. Okay, so you can see here that she got a push. She even sees the amount of dollars that she needs to pay, and only once she approves that, the the transaction is performed and the purchase is done. Okay. So we saw how easy it is to register. We saw a few of the web-based flows. Now let's see how quickly and easy Wonder Woman can log in. Now you really need to pay attention because it's going to be really fast. So she puts in her, and this is her trusted primary device. So she puts in her credentials, and that's it. She's in. She didn't have to do anything. However, behind the scenes, invisible MFA happened. So let's see what happened behind the scenes. Wonder Woman opened the application, she logged in, and then she just was logged in and she could start shopping. However, behind the scenes, PingID Mobile SDK communicated through Shopco server with PingID SDK cloud service in order to verify and authorize that device. So PingID SDK really verified that that device is Wonder Woman's device. So there was device verification without impacting on customer experience at all. Okay, so once we have a device and we know everything that we can do with it, we understand that in the customer world, users most likely will have more than one device. They might have a household device that all the family uses, or maybe they have more than one phone that they would like to use. So once the primary device is paired, it is used in order as an approval mechanism for all other devices. So let's say the user has an iPad, he can now trust that device using the primary device. So what will happen is the primary device will receive a push notification asking to trust the iPad, and once the user approves it, then the new device will be trusted. On the other side of the spectrum, the primary device can be used in order to block suspicious devices from ever being able to log in to the genuine user's account. And in between these two options, we support in PingID SDK for the organizations to implement reduced permissions for certain devices. And now we also provide the option for the organization to implement our APIs in order to allow the users to self-manage their devices. So the organization can implement that both on the web or on the mobile, depending on the organization's needs. And they can allow users to do all sorts of things. So the user can untrust a device, he can change a primary device, he can block or unblock a device, depending on the APIs that you want to use. Okay. So let's check how Wonder Woman does that. So she bought an iPad and she wants to log in from the new iPad that she bought, which already has PingID SDK implemented in. So she logs in from that device, and what will happen now is that she will receive a push notification to her primary mobile device asking her to approve that new device. So once she approves it, she's logged in, and the iPad is trusted same way as the mobile device, as the iPhone. And whenever she will log in from that iPad again, it will be seamlessly and easily done the way we saw she logs in on the iPhone.
Just a question. Trust levels?
I'm sorry?
Are they two different trust levels?
The only difference between them is that this is the primary device and this is a secondary device. So any action that is done will be sent to the primary device. However, the secondary device can do anything if the user wants to. So, sorry, it continued. Okay, I would like to show you now how she manages her devices. So, I'll stop for a minute. So in Shopco, we have a device management page. So you can see here that she sees her trusted devices. She can see that the iPhone is her primary device and the iPad is a secondary device. Now she lost the iPad, so she wants to remove it from her network of trusted devices. She removes it. And she even suspects that it might have been stolen, so she blocks it altogether. And now if someone else, a malicious user, tries to log in from from the stolen iPad. That's just, sorry. I'll take it back a few notch. Okay, so if someone tries to, oh, sorry, that's really annoying. Let me do it from here.
What's your question while she's doing
Yeah,
that?
sorry.
Can you tell us a little bit about the flow for a compromise of your primary device?
Well, depending on the way the company implemented it, if you have another trusted device, you can use that in order to unpair the primary device. However, if the organization implemented a more strict security, you may need to call the customer service in order, or the admin in order to revoke that. So let me try again. So we saw, okay, now we see that someone is trying to log in from her blocked device, and he cannot because that device is blocked. So he cannot log into that device again. Okay, and you already saw the preview. So we talked about everything from the user point of view, what the user can do, how the user experience using the application with PingID. Let's think about the hacker for a minute. So if a hacker got some credentials, some stolen credentials, and he installs the application, Shopco application, and he tries to log in using the stolen credentials, the genuine user will receive push notification asking him if he trusts that device. Since the device obviously is not his, and he didn't initiate that request, he will deny access and he will block that malicious user from logging into his account. And as we saw before in the video, the user will not be able to log in. In a similar way, if the hacker tries to perform a high-risk transaction or high-value transaction, the genuine user will receive a notification, and again, he can deny that, and the hacker will not be able to do anything. Yes? You're just, sorry, I think maybe we can go. So that's just, okay. So you saw Wonder Woman. And we'll go to the questions later. So we saw Wonder Woman, and we saw that she is awesome. And PingID, as we see, is also awesome. So let's see what you need to do in order to deploy it. So you need to basically integrate PingID into integration points. One is your mobile application. You need to embed PingID Mobile SDK into your own mobile application. And you need to integrate PingID SDK APIs in your hosting server in order to communicate with PingID server. And this is exactly what Chris did. It just continues without me doing anything. That's just awesome. So let's go to the Q&A, and I'll just say that we'll be happy to see you in Identify 2017. And that's it. I'll just remove it.
Hi, what language bindings does your kit support? What programming languages are supported?
Gaby?
Maybe I can answer that. So the web APIs are REST APIs, so there are no SDKs. And for the mobile, we support iOS and Android. Objective-C.
For now.
You talked about the risk analysis. Who does the risk analysis? Is there any risk engine we need to integrate with?
So as I said, it's API-based. So if you have any risk engine that you need to integrate, you can, according to the risk score, activate PingID or not. So if you, for example, the transaction amount is very low and you don't need MFA in order to approve the transaction, then you can skip it altogether and approve it. And if you feel that the risk score is high and you need to have the user's approval using MFA, then you can use PingID.
Hi, simple question. How your PingID solution is supporting the NIST requirement 800-171? Are you familiar with that?
I'm sorry.
The NIST requirement for MFA, which is 800-171, it's a document. How much you are in compliance with that?
Run.
We are working now on a compliance program with NIST. Basically, we are at a level 2. And LOA level 2, yeah. Yeah, so we are resolving now these differences, and let's take it offline, okay?
So some of the PCI compliance requires authentication every single time. You can't really go on device-based authentication or a device identification. So in such cases, if an application is it requires to be PCI compliant, does the mobile support not automatically trust? I can do once at a time. I don't want to trust the device anytime. Every single time the user comes in, I want to challenge the user. Is there a possibility on the mobile?
So you want not to trust the device?
Not to trust the device if such use cases are there.
So how will you authenticate the user if it doesn't have a, how do you want to authenticate them?
I'm looking for any kind of alternate challenge methods, because the mobile, what is presented here, it automatically trusts the device and keeps it in the binding list, device bound list. If I don't want to trust the device, do I have an option not to trust the device?
Oh, definitely, sorry. Yeah, you can choose not to trust the device. And we implemented it very, just one way, but we support all sorts of options. You can provide the user with more than 2 options, approve, deny. You can provide the user with, let's say, approve, just one-time approve, just don't ask me for, let's say, a week, deny, one-time deny, or completely block. So we provide all sorts of options. We just implemented it here very easily, just yes or no. But the user can log in without being paired, yes.
So
I can't hear you, sorry.
the APIs are flexible and have a lot more functionality than is implemented in the demo application. The demo application is using a subset of the API capabilities.
Yeah, just a small subset of what we can actually do.
One more. The other question is Azure MFA solution. Is it on top of it, whatever the Microsoft Azure is already providing as an MFA, or it's a separate solution?
I'm kind of following on this gentleman's comments, but it sounds like you can still have a trusted device and still require additional authentication or authorization for a higher risk transaction. Is that correct?
Oh, definitely, okay. Yeah. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a very important point. The flows are very flexible, and since this is SDK and APIs, our customers can implement their own flows and using alternative or other methods like biometrics only when it needed, on high risk transaction. Yeah, and everything puts in it the same flow.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw that here because it wasn't a live demo, but the way Chris implemented it is that he used the iOS Touch ID in order to approve things. So yeah.
Touch ID would be one example.
Yeah, so you can implement it the way you want. Any more questions?
So where do you?
Oh, sorry, there was a question over there.
You can go on.
It's coming. It's coming in the new roadmap.
So my question is, where do you define the risk analysis? I mean, in this instance, if it was a high transaction, I mean, where do you define those things?
So I think Gaby answered a little bit of that before. So if the organization uses some sort of risk engine, it can decide there if to go to PingID SDK in order to if the risk engine advised it to, or you can just do something static. So let's say the way Shopcore is implemented, every transaction, for example, requires authentication. So it's really up to the organization to decide how they wish to implement it. And what is a high risk or high value transaction. That's it. So did you have a question? No. So we really wanted to show you a live demo. We are ready to show it if you would like, and we'll be around. Chris will be in the booth, and we are really up to it. It's just that the Wi-Fi here was really not responsive enough. So that's it. Thank you.